Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. A Young Girl's Plea for Her Beloved Pet by I Don't Know a Name 101. Hello, Chloe. I really had the time of my life with you. You truly made my dreams come true and proved no one is a better friend than you. I hope you had just as much fun as I did because, unfortunately, this fun that has been granted to us has an end and its consequences. Immediately when you receive this letter, follow all the instructions carefully if you want a chance of meeting me again. 1. I made an underground bunker for us deep within the forest near the treehouse. So deep and obscure that no one would suspect anything. A bit dramatic, I know, but who are we to underestimate the power of friendship? Leave promptly. The directions are on this slip. Please do not leave any trace whatsoever suggesting you've been here. 2. Do not be seen. People don't know what I know. They don't see what I see. Bad things could happen, and I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to be taken away from me, not without saying goodbye. 3. However, in the event you happen to be around people, they sweet talk, try to touch or feed, or in any way try to get closer to them, politely decline their advances and back away as quickly as you can. Do not let them get distressed, upset, or annoyed. It will always make things worse. 4. My family. Beware of their behavior towards you and this special treatment. Do not be swayed. They don't know any better and are trying to repair you as if you were near the end of your life as you were before. This goes without saying that that's not the case. If you don't want to live on as you are, do your best not to encounter them and avoid them at all costs. All this is explained that, in the eyes of everyone else, you're still a cat, a missing cat that needs to be put down. Unfortunately, I can't make the decision, but I really want you to be my human friend forever. Whether you want any of this or not, I will never truly know. Choose not to follow this letter, and we won't see each other again, not like this. I'm sorry we didn't know any of this earlier. It's my fault and my selfishness. I would never have wished it to happen this way. I hope one day, whether you decide you can forgive me, I just want to have fun one last time. You were always more than a pet to me, and I couldn't let it go. Maybe after this, I can make peace. Lots of love, Maya. Your childhood instincts are correct. The murderer cannot, in fact, get you as long as you're completely covered by your blanket. That's okay. I'll wait. I think I might be alone by I Am Furious. I am alone right now. I don't mean that it's just me in the apartment. I mean that there's no one else in the world. I don't know what happened, but 3 days ago I found the sky had gone black and there was no one else alive. Except for the good old internet and news and the phone calls I've sent my parents and coworkers. Let me start on Saturday at 10 p.m. So as part of my onboarding for the new company, I have to do a week or 2 of each of their product tours. I've already done my tour 3, which is really early in the morning, and tour 2 is default day shift. Tour 1 is dinner to early morning, which is why I'm getting up so early on a Sunday. Something about the official start of the next day being 10 p.m. yesterday or something. I got up at 9 p.m. and the first thing I noticed was just how dark it was outside. Like, darker than it would have been just that late at night. I didn't really think too much about it at the time because I was still tired from trying to adjust to the night shift. I got ready for the day like normal and started my drive to work. I noticed there wasn't much traffic on the highway as I drove to work, which again, I didn't really think anything of because it was late and I was still a little out of it. I didn't even realize anything was really wrong when I got to work. I didn't expect there to be anyone in the office section of the warehouse where I work. I am an operational industrial engineer, so I'm an admin. I go to my workstation, boot it up, check my emails, and begin procrastinating away the next few hours of being the only one in the office. It was around midnight that I thought I'd go to do a walk around the warehouse floor and see what Tour 1 actually looked like. The thing is, there was no one there. This was weird because I was told we pretty much run 24/7 even on holidays. I walked the whole floor and found evidence of activity, like a pallet jack abandoned in the middle of the aisle, a few carts ready to move on to the trucks, but no people. After something like a half an hour trying to figure out where everyone was, I decided that maybe they lied about the holiday part and this Monday was actually one of those random ones that we forgot existed. I laughed and head home, quietly thankful for the extra day to try and acclimatize to the night shift. I was a bit more awake driving home, so I noticed the complete absence of traffic so late at night. I kind of expected there to be someone out at this time, but again, it was late. I then rationalized that it was a holiday, so of course no one would be out. It was sheer blackness that got me though. It was dark, the only illumination coming from my headlights and the street lamps. I couldn't see the moon or any stars, just a black as black sky. I guess it was just cloudy and put it out of my mind. When I got home, I immediately went online because I have no life and found absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. I was getting emails like normal. People had posting videos on social media like normal. I even found a few YouTube videos that were posted an hour ago and stuff like that. Things looked normal online. And then it got to be 8 in the morning and I looked outside. It was still black as black outside. It spooked me at first, but then I remembered that it was cloudy outside. Just to be sure, I checked the weather online. The weather said it was clear skies until Friday. I had to stare at that for a bit. Eventually, I had decided that the weather auto location was broken and it thought I was in the next city or something. There was no way you miss clouds like that. It did kind of creep me out how it was constantly dark outside. But it wasn't until the next day that I started to get suspicious. So, 9 at night, it's pitch black out. Get ready, drive to work. As I stand in the parking lot, I realized suddenly that it was warm. I get that nights can be warm sometimes, but this warmth it didn't feel right to me. I shrugged it off as some sort of weather effect. I got into work, checked emails, everything looked normal. Except for the fact that I see emails that suggest that everyone came into work yesterday. I was confused to say the least, and then I went out to walk the floor. It was just like last night, exactly like last night. Stuff was still in the dock waiting to be shipped, a pallet jack was in the middle of an aisle. I walked the floor for an hour, trying to rationalize it until I just decided that somehow The fact that it was still officially Monday meant that it was still a holiday, even if the schedule was weird. My mind ignored the emails telling me that today was not a holiday and assumed that everyone would be normal tomorrow. It was still pitch black out, and there was still no cars on the road. But there were new YouTube videos, there were new emails in my inbox, there were new posts on Reddit and Twitter. Hell, there was a full VOD on Twitch that had clearly been recorded yesterday. But it was still dark when the sun should have been up. My parents live only a few hours away, so if there was severe weather, then my mother would have called me about it, right? I mean, she would have seen it when she drives into work, so I called my parents and asked about the weather. My parents, of course, said that everything was just fine and got really confused when I mentioned the darkness. They rationalized it was just a storm front that they'll be dealing with later this week, and I had just agreed with them because it makes sense. It was just a storm front sitting over the city. It was just a holiday. No one drives this late at night. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. And then I went back to work. Now, at this point, pallet jack, yada yada. It suddenly dawned on me that maybe we don't have a night shift. This is just a hazing thing done to the new guy. They say, go to the night shift for a week, and laugh as you walk an empty floor. It makes perfect sense, and the whole making the floor look the same. Clearly, someone was pushing it a little. I just go home for the rest of the week, screw them. They wanted to effectively give me the week off, and I was going to take it off. It'd be a funny story, and I come in on Monday at the normal time, and we all laugh. There was no one on the road when I went home. It wasn't until dinner for my off-scheduled ass that I realized just how wrong things were. I'd run out of food and decided to go to Havy. The one just down the road was open from 6 in the morning till 11 at night, and it was almost 7 for me. They'd be open. So I go out, get in my car. It was still dark, still off-putting, but I didn't really care at this point. I noticed just how empty the street was, though. My normal shift had me heading to work at this time, and there was a bit of traffic, but there was absolutely nothing. No one was even in Havy's parking lot. No one was in the store. Just my car out there and me inside, walking down the rows of mildly overpriced food items alone. It was weird, and I started to get this feeling that I was being watched whenever I walked by the windows. I pretty much overloaded my cart with stuff and ran to the checkout. Of course, no one was manning anything, but there was a self-checkout. I actually went through and paid for everything I had in my cart before heading to the door. When I got outside, it was like the darkness was thicker, warmer somehow. There was obviously no one out there, but I don't know. I shoved everything into my car and drove off, mostly respecting the speed limits. I was weirded out. I knew something was wrong, but I don't know. I just don't know. Thankfully, there's a garage at my apartment, so I could take my groceries without feeling being watched. But everything looked fine online. I had an idea, though. I could call my mom. My mom would drive up after work. She'd buzz in at the front gate. She'd come to my apartment door and knock. She proved that I wasn't crazy. She proved that it was just foggy and there were clouds and that somehow just happened to miss everyone at the grocery store. So I called my mom. She could tell from the way I was acting that something was really wrong and that she would be driving up immediately. The hour and a half it took for her to get here was the longest in my life. All throughout it, I would peek outside and feel wrong, alone, watched, and then I'd get a buzz on my phone, apartment front door. I let my mom into the building and wait, and then she calls me. My mom was in my apartment, but I couldn't see her. She said that she knocked and eventually tried the handle. I guess it happened that my door was unlocked, except for the fact that my door was locked. She was looking around, my computer was on, apparently, my lights were on, but I wasn't there. My first reaction is that she clearly must have gone to the wrong apartment. I didn't hear knocking because the walls were built right. We both laughed and I go outside to make sure she sees me. She says that I'm not in the hall. I say that's impossible. I FaceTime her and show her the hall that I'm clearly in. She FaceTimes me and shows me the hall that I'm clearly not in. I don't get it. I walk my mom through my apartment with FaceTime and we find out that somehow I haven't been there for 3 days. My fridge is like it was from Saturday. My computer is on and has Reddit open. I make sure she's in my room when I open a YouTube video, but she says she doesn't see anything. She believes me when I say I'm scared. She believes me when I open the blinds and show her the darkness outside. She asks me what that thing in the fog is. What thing in the fog? There is something out there. There is something in the darkness and it is watching me. My mom says that she'll stay on the line and keep me company while I barricade my apartment. Eventually though, she needs to leave. I promise to text her every hour that I'm okay. I actually just texted her right now, funny that. That thing is out there, and somehow it feels like the darkness is pushing in slightly through the windows. I don't know what to do. I'm debating sleeping in the bathroom just to have an extra door between me and it. I'll update you if anything else happens. Update. Something is in my apartment. I can hear it outside my bedroom door. There isn't a lock on it since this is a 1-bedroom, so I just have a chair propped up against it to keep it shut. Update. It started knocking. Update. It stopped knocking. Update. I realize I have a window. Update. I am here. I knew that my gambling debts were now insurmountable, so with deep regrets, I wrote a suicide note and loaded my pistol. My wife's insurance payout should net me just enough to buy into a game where I can win it all back. And I'm betting that the cops won't be able to prove it was me. Exploring an Abandoned Warehouse by Stan Cooper 22. Sorry if this is a long post, but I need to share this with someone. There is this abandoned warehouse in the middle of my city. Not in the middle, but in the busy part of the city. The reason no one has done anything about it is because the warehouse used to be owned by a petroleum company. They used it to store oil before the city expanded. Now there's a flyover running over it, and the property is owned by the city and the Railway Commission because of the rail line that runs next to it. Anyway, it's just a building that used to be part of a massive complex of warehouses, silos, and a factory. Now, this one building remains. A friend and I like to explore abandoned places. Mainly for the experience and to imagine what it would have been like when the place was active and functioning. So we were looking for places to explore, and I had known about this location. It is quite close to where we live. So I suggested if we could explore the warehouse. My friend jumped at the chance and we set a date, Saturday morning. We decided to go early in the morning because that area is known for shady things and the nights weren't safe. It also gets busy during the midday. Anywho, we went around 7 a.m., walked over there since it's not too far. When we reached the place, it was messy. Garbage piled up in the corner and the compound wall tagged with graffiti. We had to find a way in. As we walked around, we discovered that there was no way in from the street. It was just wall all the way down. We had to get in from the tracks. So we walked around and entered the railway tracks. From the tracks, you could see the flyover that runs over it and an apartment next to the warehouse. This place is like in the middle of all the action, yet it is in its own bubble, lost to time. On the other side of the tracks is army and railway property. We eventually found a break in the wall that allowed us to enter the place. We had to hop over it, and there was an old broken freezer just lying on the other side. So people have come in here before. When we stepped in, I kid you not, I felt this overwhelming sense of dread. Yeah, it sounds cliche as hell, but I just felt something was off. I told my friend this, and she just shrugged it off, like it was no big deal. She basically said it was probably because we were trespassing and we could get caught. Inside, there was a lot of overgrown poppy plants and wild weeds just growing out of the cement. We had to trek through this brief bit of foliage, and once we did, we stepped into a compound. The compound was big, but I couldn't sense the size of it because of a good amount was being covered in overgrown wild foliage. But we could see the warehouse building rising over it in an imposing and dilapidated form. My friend was excited to see this. She pulled out her phone and took some pictures. I looked around and the feeling was just getting worse. Then we walked farther in, and that's when I saw it. On the ground, bones, like animal bones. It was a whole field of bones just strewed around on the ground. I freaked. I'm a guy who does not believe in superstition, but I also do think curses and black magic and the supernatural is a possibility. So when I saw a literal compound full of bones, like skulls, femurs, teeth, and a whole animal skeleton compounded with that feeling of intense dread and doom, a feeling that I get when someone close to me is about to die, I want to get out of there. I told my friend that we need to leave. She still wanted to explore. She was walking all over the bones and kicking them around. I was watching this and getting more scared. I asked her why there would be a whole bunch of bones here. She said she didn't know and didn't really care. Now, she doesn't believe in anything supernatural. Ghosts don't exist in her mind, and curses and black magic are just psychological sleight of hand. To be honest, I kind of think the same way, but I also don't dismiss the idea that someone can get cursed, or a place can be cursed. So for her, this is just fun. For me, terrifying. I was carefully watching my step, trying my best to avoid the bones. She was just trampling all over them. I didn't want to explore further, and she did. I somehow convinced her that we needed to leave, and she finally conceded, realizing I was actually scared for my life. After we left and on the way back, I realized that feeling had not gone. I told her this. She said I was probably paranoid. Funny thing, I never mentioned this earlier because I personally think it's a coincidence, but there's always that nagging feeling at the back of my mind that it's not. Now, for as long as I can remember, on some level I've had an ability to sense when someone is about to die. Like, they can be healthy, young, old, or sick. But if they are about to die, I can sense it. Many times even before they realize. Like, it only comes when I'm close to the person physically or interacting with them. But I have to be around or in some kind of contact with them. Basically, when I'm with them, I can't get the thought of death out of my head. That was the feeling I was getting when I was with her after we left. Mind you, I never got that feeling before we entered the place. No, I instantly got it after we left. I told her this, like I just told her I thought we might be cursed and that one of us is going to die. She, as usual, made a joke out of it and then semi-seriously said that I wasn't invited to her funeral if she died. But I told her that I was not going back there. She agreed and we went back home. Cut to a few days later, we had plans to watch a movie when she suddenly canceled on me because she fell sick. That feeling had not gone. In fact, it came back stronger. She jokingly mentioned it was the curse. I just laughed, but at the back of my mind, I was wondering if it actually was. Then a few days after that, I find out she had been admitted in the hospital. The condition was getting worse. The rest I found out from her parents because she had slipped into a coma shortly after that. The doctors were trying everything, and they couldn't figure out why she wasn't recovering. Then one night, I was just sitting on my computer watching videos when I got the feeling again, stronger than ever this time. Like stronger than I had ever gotten before. Funny thing, no one was around me, and I wasn't talking to anyone either. The only thought I had was someone is going to die, and I couldn't focus on what I was doing, just the thought of death. I thought I was going to die, and the feeling got worse and worse. I tried to fight the feeling and shake it off, but it wouldn't go. Then suddenly it stopped, and all I could feel was sadness. I went to sleep. The next morning, I find out from my parents that my friend had passed away last night in the hospital. I have never been in that warehouse again. Being paranoid about losing sight of my son while in crowded places, I make sure to firmly hold on to the hand of my son while walking through the amusement park. Walking out of the crowded attraction, still holding onto his hand tightly, I then turn around and froze in horror when I realized that the hand I was holding onto was not my child's. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. First of all, if you have a story you'd like me to narrate, you can send it to me 3 different ways, either through my website, email, or my subreddit. All the links are down below. Second of all, I'd like to thank my Patreons and members. Thank you guys so much for your support. You really help a lot. Last but never least, I'd like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. I thought each of them had a different kind of feel to them. We started with a girl's plea to her beloved pet, just wanting to play one more time. And then we went to a world where the night sky disappeared, and something was in the fog watching all along, as they sat alone in a pocket world maybe? I'm not 100% sure where they ended up, but they were still connected to everyone else somehow. And then we went to a warehouse, where it seems like a curse was placed on that best friend of some kind, and they didn't make it through in the end. Whenever you have a bad feeling in real life, I always recommend just leave. And if someone close to you has the same bad feeling, even if you don't, leave. Trust your gut. Your brain can pick up on things that you consciously can't. I always think it's better to be safe than sorry, because sometimes sorry is the end. But as always, if you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications so you don't miss a single upload. And of course, I always love comments. Tell me what you thought, which story was your favorite, what kind of stories you would like me to kind of find for next time, stuff like that. If you're on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review. And if you're on Spotify, there are questions you can answer or also use that same section for your comments. And of course, sharing this channel and podcast with anyone who might enjoy it helps quite a bit, getting out to new people who might also enjoy these spooky and fictional and true stories I bring to life for you. And of course, if you'd like to support like the people I mentioned before, I do have Patreon, memberships, PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Super Thanks on YouTube. All this is never expected, but always appreciated, and it really helps just keep the channel going. But of course, like I've said in every video, I think, since I started this channel, just having you guys watching and listening really means the world to me. I truly enjoy narrating these stories and bringing life to them and seeing how you guys enjoy them. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.